Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight. As Mr. Holt said, I don't think we were expecting so many of you, so we really appreciate you coming out and taking the time, especially at 6 o'clock at night, so I'm sure many of you had to rush home and get here, so we do appreciate that. Each school, Memorial and Liberty, we wanted to make sure that the parents understood what we are doing with your students. We always get those phone calls, did you meet with my student? Are you going to meet with my student? What should I be doing at home? What should they be doing? So we're just going to walk you through that process tonight. So a starting point for all of you would be those conversations that you need to start having if you haven't already done so. I am a parent of a sophomore myself. My daughter goes to High School North, and we've been having these conversations starting back to freshman year, talking about college. And some of the things that you can talk about at home are the type of colleges that your child might be interested in attending. So you can see we have several to choose from, over 3,000, close to 4,000 colleges here in the United States. About 80% of our students will apply to about 20% of the colleges, usually along the East Coast. So it's nice to see when students start venturing out. I have a couple students who are applying down to Alabama. Always Florida is very popular, but it's usually the East Coast, so it's nice to see when students start venturing towards the West. Community college, that's a 2-year college. Ocean County College is our community college. Brookdale, a lot of students from our schools will go to Brookdale, which is Monmouth's community college. 2-year private schools, New Jersey state colleges, universities, Rutgers, you get a great education. We know it is cheaper than some of the private schools, and so they are pretty competitive to get into. Regional colleges, universities, national colleges, liberal arts schools, Ivy League, major prestige schools, specialized schools, culinary arts, military, art, and music. A lot to choose from, a lot to talk about. Okay, some of the things you should be talking to your child about is the size of the school that they want to attend. So obviously everyone sitting here is thinking about college. So the question should be, well, how big? Do you want a college the size of your graduating class, the size of your school? Or do you want a campus where you have to get onto a bus and take from location to location, like Rutgers University, for example? The location of the school, do you want to be closer to a city? Is that not your thing? Do you want to be by the beach? All these things you have to take into consideration. There was a school recently that came to visit us, and they were, what was the school? Flagler. Oh, we visited Flagler, St. Augustine, Florida. And we're sitting there as counselors going, wow, it's right on the beach. How fantastic is that? And my joke was, I'm going to retire there and live in one of the dorms because it's affordable. But if you are okay with your student going to the beach, you better make sure that that student is going to be attending classes. So you know your child, and that is a conversation you must have. By the way, with location too, my daughter and I, in our conversations that we're having right now, we're talking about, can I get into a car and get to her in the same day? That's my conversation as a mom. That's what matters to me. She's thinking about schools in Los Angeles. She's out of her mind, according to me, because it's not going to happen, because that means that she has to get on a plane, I have to get on a plane to get there, and that's something for our family that just doesn't work out. So those are the conversations and sometimes arguments we're having, but that does matter. You need to have these conversations. So distance from home, activities, athletics. If you have a child who is interested in sports, who is being recruited, maybe they just want to be involved in a sport, but maybe not a Division I or Division II, but just to play like a club. That's very important because they're going to be there for 4 years. So you want to make sure they're happy, that they're finding activities, athletics that they love and they enjoy. Public versus private. Very interesting here. So public schools, again, let's talk about the state schools. They are affordable, they are competitive, because a lot of students want to take advantage of that cost, that lower cost, to graduate in 4 years, maybe not in debt. And some students, some parents shy away from the private schools because their price tag is much higher in many cases. I do suggest if your child is interested in a private school, to don't rule it out right away. Many of the private schools, they give a lot of money away to their students, a lot of scholarship money. So many times students end up with a great package from a private school they didn't think they could afford, and they actually are paying less to go to that private school than if they were to go to a public school. Okay, again, co-ed, single sex. What are the entrance requirements? That matters. How hard is it to get into that school? The reputation of the school. The majors available, because many times students sit with me and they'll say, oh, I really want to go to, I don't know, it's usually some like North Carolina school. And I'll say, okay, you know, what is it about that school that you like? Well, my cousin goes there. Okay, that's great. Did you look into the majors? Like you said you wanted to be an accountant. You know, are there majors there? Are there business majors? And that's the conversations we have in the office, because yes, sometimes they hear about a school, they know somebody who goes there, they want to go there, but they want to make sure, if they have a specific major in mind, you want to make sure that they are looking into schools that offer those majors. Even though we know sometimes they do change majors, so that should not be your final decision maker. Commitment to the major by the school, the cost, that's a big one, and the campus environment. So please, if you have an opportunity to go onto any campus, onto any campuses, we do recommend that you do that, because now is the beginning time for the juniors in here. You know, you're starting to take that list of yours, write it, maybe narrow it down, but we do recommend that you get onto campuses, because within 10 minutes of being on a campus, many students know if they like it or if they don't. It's just that simple. Some students will come in again, I want to apply to a school in Florida, and I'll say, have you been there? No. Okay, you're saying your heart is set on that school, but you haven't even been on that campus. You need to make sure you get on that campus. It's important. Okay, so how do we figure this all out? Well, the Jackson School District has provided our students with a program called Naviance. Naviance is the way that we, the school district, communicate with the colleges. We send out transcripts through this program. We send out letters of recommendation through this program. This is our communication tool with the colleges. But on that site, there's a lot of valuable information for the students. And all the students have an account by now on Naviance. You can do college searches. What's nice about that is the guidance counselors have access to their Naviance site. So we can go on and see that your child is interested in certain schools. So when they come into our office, we can have those conversations. I see that you are interested in applying to Seton Hall. Okay, what is it about Seton Hall that you're interested in? You know, I see that you're interested in applying to University of Tampa. What is it about that school that you're interested in? So we can see what's happening because they can save their information. I do encourage that if you haven't been on that site with your student, that you go onto that site, because again, that is how we communicate with the colleges. So come senior year, when you're applying, that is how we send out your transcripts. Everything is through Naviance. So if your child comes to me and says, well, you know, my school that I applied to is looking for my transcript, the first thing I say is, well, is it in Naviance? Because if it's not in Naviance, we cannot send a transcript there. Other internet searches, College Board. So if your child has already signed up for the SATs, you should be familiar with that site. A lot of students come in and say, all my information's on College Board. And again, I say, that's great, but now you have to transfer that information to Naviance. So you can use other sites other than Naviance, just make sure that that is the main site they keep going back to, and they include their information there. US News, College Scorecard, and college fairs. In the fall, we always host a huge college fair. The OCPGA, which is the Ocean County Guidance Association, we host it, and it's at the Retaco Center. It's at Poland Springs now, the one in Toms River, and it's fantastic. We have the majority of New Jersey schools come. We have schools from New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, all the way from, to California. They come out to this fair. So it's worth attending. And again, that's in the fall. So hopefully the list is kind of consolidated, narrow, small by that point, and your child pretty much has an idea of where they want to apply to. But it's a nice opportunity for your child, for you to go and speak to somebody who works in admissions, and you can learn more about the schools if you need to at that point. It's usually in October.
There's a second one this year. There's going to be one in April.
There's going to be one in April. So this is a great opportunity for all the juniors in here. So that's you'll hear about that. We do make announcements at school. So, and I believe we do post it on.
It's supposed to be a date. There's not a date yet. It's going to be in April or early May.
Okay.
And last year was the first year we did it. There was over 75 schools last year.
So keep that in mind. So even if you want to call your guidance counselor, your child's guidance counselor, to find out as we get closer to that time, we can let you know as soon as we find out about it. I did forget about that. That was new, and it was very successful. Okay, your search should include the following. Your child talking to their guidance counselor. That will always help. We can give them some information, certainly guide them. We don't tell the students where to apply. That's not our role, because we don't know as a family what you can afford, how far away you want them to go. So we tread lightly there. We try to, if they tell us they're interested in this school, we talk about that school, the programs, we talk about the majors they're interested in. But that's really a discussion with the family, trying to figure this out. We are here to help you. You can call, communicate, whatever you want to do. But part of that is definitely being your guidance counselor, but we don't tell them where to apply. So that's a conversation that you have at home, and we certainly will support you and encourage the students to keep asking questions and talk with us. We do, on their Naviance, how many in here have actually been on their child's Naviance account? Anybody? Okay. Again, I do recommend that you get on that account with them. On the front page, the home page, when you pull up their account, you're going to see a list of colleges that are coming in for visits into our schools, both Liberty and Memorial. And your child has an opportunity to sign up to go to meet with them during the school day. A pass will be sent to their homeroom the morning of. So it's mostly, excuse me, sorry. It's mostly for seniors, and sometimes juniors will go as well. But it's an opportunity for the student. If there's a school that comes into our school, and let's say it is from far away, let's say it's a North Carolina school, a Florida school, a California school, Texas school, and you don't think you're going to be able to get out there anytime soon, but your child is very much interested in learning about that school, here's a great opportunity for them to come down and sit with an admissions person and learn about the school. So again, on the Naviance homepage, it's a list of the schools that are coming in. They can click, they can register, and we send them a pass. School visits, again, if your child has their heart set on going to a specific school, please make sure you get onto that campus, because again, I can't tell you how many times students have come to us, said they're very interested in a school, they go on their trip, they come back the following Monday, and they say, I hated it. I was there 10 minutes and I hated it. So it's just really interesting, because again, it's just a feel that they get, and some students will take the tour, and some have turned around and said, nope, I'm not even going on the tour, I don't like it here. So they need to get a sense of the school. Oops, go ahead. Okay, again, so open houses are coming up in the fall, always. You can sign up for them September. But again, you want at least a working list by then. And certainly spring break is a great time to go on to any campuses and take a look, because many times the colleges are on spring break at a different time than we are. So it's nice because you get to see a live campus in action. All right, so how do schools evaluate your child? The number one most important document is going to be their transcript. Junior year is a very important year. I tell all the students, you want to end it strong, because that's the last set of grades that the colleges are going to see. They will see senior year, certainly, thank you. But they're not going to see any grades for senior year until the mid-year report goes out. Okay, so many times students are being accepted to schools before mid-year reports go out. So again, junior year is their last opportunity to bring up that GPA, that class rank, and to end strong before they start sending out their college applications. course selection, certainly. A rigorous schedule. Again, we always stress when we talk about scheduling, we have our scheduling presentations, that the students should be challenging themselves, but not to the point where they are drowning. Definitely challenge yourself in the classes that you're doing really well in, the subjects that you really like, and then think maybe about backing up a little bit or backing off a little bit when it comes to some of the classes that maybe you have a harder time, getting those 8s in. Rank in class, SAT and ACT scores. Some schools, it's the world we're in. They still look at standardized test scores. SAT is still there. Some schools will say that they don't have to, it's optional SATs, but just understand that if a school is saying it's optional, that means that they're going to be looking heavily at your child's GPA and class rank. That's usually what that means. Letters of recommendation and essay at times. Not all schools require essays. Okay, the subject test, the SAT subject test. When you are looking with your child and you are looking into schools, some of the more competitive schools will require a subject test. So think about that if your child's taking AP classes. It's usually, I recommend the June subject test date because in May they take their AP exam. So they want to be focused on that. It's still fresh in their head. Have them sit for the subject test in June of junior year. That to me is the best time to take it because, like I said, it's still fresh in their head. Not all schools will require the subject test though. Keep that in mind. Okay, leadership positions, if they're in clubs, activities, I always say try to stay with it, 1 or 2 from freshman year on, and try to get a leadership position by the time you're junior or senior year, because the colleges are impressed with leadership positions, activities, or sports clubs, community service, and employment. They look at all that. SAT, again, we can't get away from it. So when, as juniors, should your child be taking the SATs? Well, there's many different opinions on this. I can tell you as a parent and as a guidance counselor, my sophomore will be taking her SAT the first time no earlier than January of her junior year. So her and I, we've already discussed this. She's already talking about it. She took the PSATs. I said to her, you're taking your PSATs again as a junior, and that's in October. And I said, at that point, we'll start thinking about taking the actual SAT. But some students take them earlier than that. The only reason I say not to, maturity gives them more time, buys them more time. Sometimes some of the subject matter is still being taught. And again, if there's not a rush, why put yourself through that anytime sooner? And again, I think the PSAT is an opportunity for the students to take that practice test before the actual SAT, gives them one more shot around before actually sitting for that test. Many colleges will super score the SATs, and what that means is if your child takes the SAT 3 times, and that's my recommendation with prep in between, but if they take them 3 times and they have, let's say, a 650 in the math on one, like in May, and then they take it again, let's say, in October, and they score maybe a 600. Many of the colleges will take the higher score and combine it with the math and the rating piece. So it's a nice opportunity for students to show how they have excelled, but understand that the colleges will see every score anyway, but that's what it means when people ask if they super score. Okay, so again, it's just taking the 2 highest from both subject areas and combining them to the SAT score, the actual one that the colleges may use. But not all colleges do that. Even if they do, they will see every score anyway. Subject test is what I was talking about before. Again, not every student takes the subject test, and I don't recommend that they take the subject test unless they are applying to the schools that, number 1, require it, and number 2, if they are in AP classes. And again, my recommendation is to take it after the AP exam, which is in May. So take it in June. And the scoring, we've gone back to the 2 scores. For a while we had the 3 scores, and we're back to the 2 scores again. The essay is optional, so students can sit and take the essay piece of it, but it is optional. That's a discussion that you want to have with your student. To see if the schools are even taking that. Many of the colleges, when they went to the 3 part, they didn't know what they were doing with that essay, and many of the colleges, quite frankly, didn't look at it. They looked at it, but then they didn't do much with it. Some schools considered replacing their essay if they had a requirement for an essay with that, but they were a little unsure of what they were doing, and they were still looking at those 2 main scores, the English and writing, the reading and writing, and the math piece. So they went back to that. ACT is, it used to be back in the day, let me just start off that way. SAT was an East Coast-based standardized test that most of the colleges on the East Coast looked to. They wanted that score, and out west it was the ACT. Nowadays there's a combination. Many of the colleges take both, either or. Most of our students will take the SAT. Actually, we recommend that if they're sitting for a standardized test, that they do take the SAT. The students who are taking the ACT take it after they have maxed out their SAT and they're looking for an additional score. It's scored differently than the SAT. There's an English piece, a math piece, the reading piece, there's a science piece, and the optional writing test. So that gives them more of a well-rounded look as to how your child tests. Both tests have changed drastically over the years. The SAT used to, it was a scholastic aptitude test originally when it was created. Now it's not so much about their aptitude, but more about reasoning. So they do encourage, by the way, for SAT, that your child not only reads in school, but also is reading a lot outside of school, because that is going to help them on that SAT. And so now it's more based, it's measuring reasoning skills, it's not aptitude anymore. So they're both changing, they're both similar in that respect, but most of the colleges are still looking for that SAT score. Again, we do have students who take the ACT, but that's usually in addition to the SAT. And we can explain that more in detail. If you have any questions about that, you can speak to your child's guidance counselor, and we can have that conversation about, what's good for your child individually. That Naviance piece that I was talking about in the beginning, here's this information. All the important websites are located on our high school website, the individual websites, under the guidance department link. So the Naviance website is listed there. Again, once you get on there, I do recommend that you put down your favorites on your computer, have it there, have your child, encourage them to go on frequently and sit with them on occasion and take a look at that website yourself and see how that works. But the Memorial and the Liberty have 2 different websites, so again, just go onto either page and click on it that way. We do recommend, though, for the username, your child's username should be their email address, not their school email address. They should be using an email address that's appropriate for college applications. So if they created one when they were in 5th grade and it's a silly name, or maybe you're looking at it going, I don't think the colleges should see that as an email name, encourage your child to create a new one just for the college application process. That should be their username. And then their password, we always say it should be their student ID. That way, in case they forget, they can come to their guidance counselor and we can say, it's your email address, it's your student ID. That's why we do that. But again, I encourage you to get onto that website with your son or daughter. Okay, and at this time, I'm going to pass the mic to Ms. Burke.
Good evening, and I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the process, the actual application process that we will be working with your child through the next year and a half, through the end, well, actually, would say the next year. It's going to start with second semester. Second semester is usually when we really start to focus on the juniors, starting to make sure that they've been on Naviance, that they've gotten a little familiar with it, and we will walk them through the actual process. One of the sheets of papers that you picked up tonight was the application process, and it was the calendar as to the steps that we take. The first thing that we're going to do is second semester, there will be a general guidance meeting at Liberty and over at Memorial during the day for your students. We will be calling down the junior class, and we will be talking to them about scheduling their senior year. Again, we'll be talking to them about making sure it's a very competitive and a strong senior schedule, because the schools do see what courses the students will be taking in their senior year. And then we will be talking about the application process. And the first thing that we will do is making sure that they do have a username, that they have an email, and that they have their password on Naviance and that they've been on it. After we do that, we're going to ask them to go home, let you know that they had that meeting, let you know that we went and talked with them about the process. We will call them down individually. And that's going to be a two-part process. This will take place in January, beginning of February. Then we'll be meeting with them one at a time, probably in March, beginning in April, after they've chosen their classes. We're going to bring them down, talk to them about the classes that they chose, and then go step by step of what they need to be doing, or what we think how they should be progressing with the application process. This yellow release form, immediately we'll be giving them a release form that they will bring home to you, which is a way for us to have them let you know that we've met with them. The parents will need to sign it, the student signs it, they bring it back to us, and that allows us to send out any information to the colleges, and it allows us to be able to talk to any college if they want some information, transcripts, or even a talk. Sometimes the coaches, we need a release form, and so we have to make sure every student has one of those. Go to the end of the junior year and into the summer. On Naviance, when we say that the parents should be getting on that with them, it is very helpful because we actually have some steps in there that we ask the parents to do as well. This is a great time to get on there to start looking at careers. There's 3 major tabs in Naviance. There's a college tab, a career tab, and About Me tab. Right now, they haven't done the personal inventories. There's career searches. There's ways to start looking at what they may want to do, what they want to study when they get out of college. A lot of times I have them start with thinking about what classes they enjoy and start looking at careers that use those type of classes, whether it's history, whether it's music. They can start looking at the different colleges. So under the colleges tab, you're going to see colleges I'm thinking about. So as you go along and start doing the search and you happen to hear about a college or you happen to do a college visit, you go ahead and you put that college in and you start keeping track of everything, all the research that you're doing. There is under the colleges tab, there is a section called Scattergram. This is without a doubt my favorite part of Naviance, because we all know that we have students here that are very strong students, other students that are not quite as strong academically, but maybe very strong athletically, musically, artistically, and then we have students that are doing the minimal amount of work, but they're working and they're doing a number of different things. And so they need to find out what colleges or what career is appropriate for them and what they're going to enjoy and what they're going to be able to succeed in. Every year we'll have students come in and say, you know what, I'm going to go to Princeton. I love Princeton. Well, all right, let's talk about Princeton. Princeton takes maybe 1 student, 2 students a year from our school. So let's be realistic about it and let's go on to the scattergram. This scattergram will show the parent and the student over, I would say about the last 5 years or so, the number of students that have applied to Princeton. And it is a graph. It's what their GPA was, what their SAT score, and whether or not they were accepted into the college. And sometimes that makes it very clear as to whether or not they've gotten what the qualifications to even think about starting to apply there. Because they'll see who the college accepted, what their GPA was, and what their rank was. And they're going to see where they fit and what students were accepted and what students were not accepted to the school. They could do that with Rutgers, with Rowan, with Stockton, and it gives them a really good feeling as to what school may be a reach And I'm not saying don't apply. There may be schools where you look, that students will look, you will look and say, oh, we're not just quite there, he's not just quite there with GPA or with rank, but that's okay. That means it's a reach school for the student. And then you can go in and find schools there that are actually meet the children's rank and GPA and say, okay, this is a really good shot. This school might be a really good shot for us to be able to meet, to be able to be accepted. And then you'll see a school that's like, oh, you know, they do much better than that, but they love the school, but their rank is higher, their GPA is higher, so that in the back of their mind is a safety school for them. And we'll be talking to them about that, but it's a very helpful, realistic graph, and that's why I really enjoy it, because then as a parent and as a counselor, we're not one to ever want to burst a bubble, but we want to encourage them as well as be realistic with them on that, and then you just move forward from there. The other thing is the About Me tab. Those are the surveys, and this is where the parents step in. But there's letters of recommendation that the colleges are going to request. They're going to request letters of recommendation, generally for 1, 2, possibly 3 teachers, and almost every school will request a letter of recommendation from a guidance counselor. We are not in the classroom with your child. The transcript will say what the child's grades are and rank and GPA, but they still want a letter from us. Each one of the counselors in Liberty and in Jackson write a personal letter for each one of the students applying to colleges. What we put in that letter, we want is information that we gather from you, from the parent and from the student. It's what you want to brag about, what makes a student unique, what is that admission counselor going to see, so I can put something in there. For instance, I wrote a couple letters today. One of the students there happened to be on a mission, he was a missionary. There's no way I would have known that. He went to, I can't even remember where it was, I think it was in Kentucky. And I was able to write about that. I have another student who's a triplet, and so that's something really interesting to talk about them. Another student that has to come home every day from school and babysit their sister. Therefore, they're not involved in a lot of clubs, but kept a great GPA, great rank, but is responsible until 9 o'clock for the little sister every time he comes home. So there's little things like that that you're proud of, things that they're involved with, that there's no way we will know, and struggles that they've incurred, things that you want to celebrate, things that they've had to deal with. And sometimes there are things that have been very difficult, but they've still persevered, and that's something to make them shine. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in our letters of recommendation. And so there is a survey on there. It was a questionnaire that we asked the parent to fill out and asked the student to fill out. And that is on Naviance, so therefore you do have to get onto Naviance because that's something that we really value. The letters of recommendation. This is something that juniors can do. So a lot of the questions we get from the parents is what can we be doing now so that they're prepared in September? One of them is if the students already have a teacher at the end of this semester, they can think about the teachers that they've had that may be willing to write them a letter of recommendation. So that the end of this semester or the end of second semester of the junior year, they can actually ask the teacher if they'd be willing to write a letter of recommendation. And the teachers, and they could be from sophomore year or junior year. And then some students will use senior year, but if you think about it, they really haven't had the students that long. It's the junior teachers in general, so you want to catch them while they really have the student in their class or just have the student in their class. And there's a way to select letters of recommendation, and you ask them first. Let's see how we do this. Okay. What you do is you would ask the teacher first if they'd be willing to write a letter of recommendation, and then they go on to Naviance, and they request that teacher from Naviance. Step 3. Finalizing Naviance. This is the summertime. In the summertime, you're finalizing the Naviance you're doing, making sure that the teachers have gotten your request to write a letter of recommendation. Make sure your brag sheets are done so that the counselors can write the letters of recommendation. You started to do some research on the colleges on Naviance. You can get to every college's website right from Naviance. You can email your counselor right from Naviance. And that you have reviewed the scattergram. And as Ms. Goodale said, start visiting colleges. The one thing that I wanted to add about the visiting the colleges, oftentimes you cannot go or get to East Carolina or go out to High Point in North Carolina or get out to Alabama or get out to Flagler. So what we recommend is that We are very lucky to have a number of schools surrounding us right here, and a number of different size schools. You can have Rutgers, which is a huge university there, and then you can turn around and go to TCNJ, which is a smaller university, and right next to college, and right next to them is Rider, and then we also have Monmouth, and we have Georgian Court. We have a number of schools that are all different sizes, and they're in all different types of locations. And then we have New York City. You've got city schools right there. Pennsylvania, you have Westchester, you have East Stroudsburg. Well, what's that? Yeah, that's Pennsylvania, right? You can even get up to Pitt. There's a lot of places you can get to nearby that are similar in size. And so what we recommend, even now, if you happen to be driving by a school, make a pit stop. Just drive through the campus and kind of get a feel. So this is a great time for the children to be able to see, the students to be able to see what type of feel that they want on the campus. Fall of your senior year, by that time, we will be meeting with the students within the first month. We will be bringing the students in, sitting down with them and say, the first thing I ask is, first I ask how the summer was. Then I say, let's open Naviance and see what we've done. And we give them yet another calendar that says what steps they need to take at that point. Now, the other thing they will be checking too is making sure that actually when we meet for scheduling, we're going to make sure that they did set up their times for SATs, that they have taken their SATs. And as Ms. Goodale spoke to you about, we will be discussing with you as parents and with the students as to whether or not they need to take it again, or if we recommend an ACT, or we will constantly be in contact with them. Oftentimes we get calls as to whether or not we can meet with the parent and the student together when we're scheduling and when we're talking about colleges. Our role right now is to help in the transition between high school and between college. And so what we do is we do meet with the students and ask them to make sure that they go home and let you know what it is that we discussed, so that by then you can review it. If you have any questions, to give us a call. We like to meet with them independently because once they get onto a campus, they have to do that. They have to be able to vocalize their questions they have, what they are concerned about, what they want, what they don't want. That's just as equally as important as what they do want. We want to make sure that when they are looking at colleges, that what is going on socially in that campus, I know it's all academic, it's a very important piece of it, but they live there. So it's really important that they enjoy the campus as well. So these will be a number of different things that we're going to be talking to them about. And they'll start going, what they're going to do is going to start applying to schools. Most of the schools that they'll be applying to is on what is called commonapp.org. Common App is a common application. It is one application that the students can fill out, and there's a number of schools that use that application. So they will check off what schools they would like that application to go to, but there are supplemental essays or requirements from other individual schools. So say they go on Common App and they apply to 3 schools. Once they see the school, let's say TCNJ has 2 extra essays they might need to do. Rider might have 1, Rutgers is something completely different, but they will have different commitments to this application that they need to start checking. They also will have to sign a FERPA, which is waiving their rights to see what is going, the transcript and our letters of recommendation. They waive their rights to see that because they have to trust that their letters are, the integrity of the application, the integrity of the letters are intact. Now, we are going to be walking through the application process when they have individual colleges. And so they're going to link there's a way to link the common application directly to Naviance, so that when they're done with their applications, we can directly send their transcript, their letters of recommendation, our portions of the report, the school reports, the school profile. We can hit a button and send everything directly to the schools. The days of envelopes and stamps and bringing them in and waiting a week for all the information to get to the colleges are done. We will be able to turn things around within minutes. When they come down and say, Mrs. Burke, I've completed my application to Flagler. Can you send my information to Flagler, my transcripts? And as long as everything is in place, we just press the button and it's on its way. Once they complete applications, they submit it and they have to notify us right away so that we know. A lot of students will apply to schools, forget to tell us, and then therefore things don't get sent. So we'll be in constant communication with them. Also, not all schools use Common Apps, but you can start to get an idea of what the colleges are looking at, because when you get onto Naviance now and they start doing some research and start looking around, you can go right onto the websites and you can start looking at what the applications look like so they get a feel for what they're going to be facing in October. You hear from the colleges, a good number of students have their applications in right now. There's certain deadlines. There is a regular decision, which is by April 1st of their senior year. Rolling admissions means that the applications are reviewed as they're received. So if the application comes in late October, November, the students are competing against all the students that have it in at that point. The further you get into the year, the more applications you're competing with. Early decision and early action, those are two words that are on that white sheet you're going to see that we just passed out. The early decision means you are committed to that school. If you apply to that school, you have to go to that school if you're accepted, and you have to take away the rest of your applications, and that is where you'll be attending. It is a contract. Early action means you've applied usually by November 1st or November 15th or December 1st, depending on what the school requests. If you apply early to the school, they will in turn let you know early whether or not you've been accepted. So that's early action. And a lot of students, we say, at least get your top couple schools out. And usually, like I said, it's around November 15th. Rutgers is a separate entity. The way they do this is called priority. It is the only college that we really deal with at this point in time, that the students go on, they apply, and they self-report their transcript. They want nothing from us at all until they've been accepted. And then we send the transcript and they compare to make sure everything is intact. It's a numbers place. GPA, rank, and making sure that you self-report. Instant immediate decision days. Those are days that the colleges may come into our school or they may be on campus where you go with your transcript, with your information that you need from us, walk in, sit down, meet with an advisor, and they'll let you know right then and there whether or not you've applied, that you're accepted to the school. Georgian Court does that often. Just important miscellaneous information. These are things that we will be addressing, or these are questions that you may want to ask us as we go along. SAT fee waivers, application fee waivers, the EOF, and these are financial aid programs. If your student's an athlete, we have questions about the NCAA clearinghouse and college athletics. These are all questions that we can talk to, you can call us independently, and we will help you walk through those and answer those questions. Basic financial aid. We have a financial aid night in December for seniors, so that's one that we really recommend that you come. We bring somebody who is well-versed in financial aid that can answer your questions in regard to it. And so, really quickly, we just go through there. There is grants, which is free money, which I call it money you don't have to pay back. There's work-study programs, there's loans, there's scholarships, there's national scholarships, and there's local scholarships that we'll be discussing. There's also NJ STARS, which is an OCC program that if your GPA is above, if you're at the top, I think it is 15% of the class, you get to go to OCC for free. And then from there, you can transfer on to your four-year school. So that certainly helps. And then again, there's the Educational Opportunity Fund. The local scholarships are scholarships that are generously offered by people within our local area. That's in February, where the students, the seniors will be applying for that. And then they actually come in, the people that are so generous, organizations that are generous to offer scholarships, and if I understand it was well over $100,000 of money that they donate and they give in scholarships, and they actually will make the decision as to who gets or does not get the scholarship. And that's an application that is done in February, that we will definitely let all of you know by a number of different ways. And then there's the merit scholarships, private scholarships, employers that offer scholarships, certain colleges that you're applying to, they have their own scholarships, and that fastweb.com, which you will be hearing about in December. That's another place to locate scholarships. On Naviance, you can go right now. We have a whole section in there under the colleges tab about scholarships, and actually take a peek at them now, because in general those are offered every year. Those are national scholarships, so you can get an idea of what the schools are looking, what the scholarships qualifications are. Okay, the free application for federal aid. It used to be that senior parents could not apply for that until January 1st. Now it's October 1st. And if you want any type of scholarship or considered for any type of aid, you will have to fill out your FAFSA form. And that will be discussed as well. And actually, I think I told you that the financial aid night is in December. It is actually in October. That was my bad. It was in October. So that's very early on in your senior year that you can sit down and talk to a professional in financial aid. Okay. Some of the schools might meet all or some of your needs. Once we get to the point of acceptance, it's different from school to school. And we've had an admissions counselor actually tell us that if one school offers you more money than the other school, another school that you may want more, you can call them up and say, this school's offering me this. Can you meet me? Can you meet this this financial package? And they may consider that. There's always talk, always ask, it never hurts. That was a lot of information, I know, in a very condensed time. We just wanted to get you started on the process. One of the main things we would love you to take away from this is to become familiar with Naviance, understand that we're there to help you along the way, and don't hesitate to give us any calls. Give us a call for any reason.
Thank you again for coming. I know we gave you so much information tonight. It seemed overwhelming. I don't know, how many junior parents are in here? Just raise a hand. Okay. Sophomore parents? Okay. Any freshmen by chance? Okay. So it really was geared towards the junior parents, so I didn't want to overwhelm any of the sophomore parents in here, because you'll hear this again. If anything, the most important piece out of all this is just know we are talking to your children, because sometimes they'll go home and you'll say, did you meet with the guy? No, we never talk about it. We do, every time we meet with your child, we talk about their plans for after high school. Please know we do that. Please know, we don't see them often. We talk to them when they're picking their classes, but we always say, what are you thinking about after high school? My biggest, what I can say to you as parents is just talk to your kids, have those conversations. You're driving in the car, talk about colleges, what they're thinking about doing. And again, I have that sophomore at home who freshman year, she said she was going to be a fashion designer. She was going to New York City or LA. And I said, well, just because you like fashion doesn't mean you don't know how to sew. Like, you can't design clothes, what are you thinking? So these are the conversations, we laugh about it, but just talk to them. You know, right now she's starting to think that she wants to go closer to the city, and she's a dancer, so she may do that. So just, those things are important. So always talk about money with them, what you can afford as a family. And we are here to support you. Certainly give us a call with any questions you have, but please know we are going to be talking to your children about this process, and we have been for the past 3 years. Okay, so when should you start doing college research? We're just not that clever tonight. But thank you again so much for coming. We do appreciate your time. And if you needed one of those red bags,